Hey YouTube, my name is Alex Baton and welcome back to my channel, where on this channel we talk about all things cinematography, filmmaking and analog film. So as many of you know, Blackmagic have released the new Pyxis camera, and it's the same sensor from the 6K camera but in a different body form factor. Now, I've been in the market for a new camera for a really long time, and I've explored all my different variables all the way up from Alexa 35s and Alexa Minis down to the existing Blackmagics that were on the market. And so far I haven't come up with a suitable solution for myself, but I think that is until now, which is the Pyxis. We live in a really interesting time in filmmaking where the discrepancies of these really high-end, unachievable, almost unaffordable cameras that are upwards of $100,000 and the $5,000 cameras are becoming less and less. The image quality between the two is sometimes indistinguishable, and in my personal opinion, I feel like that's where the Blackmagic Pyxis comes in. I've been a Blackmagic Pocket 6K and also 4K user since they came out in, I think it was 2018. I haven't had the opportunity to actually get my hands on a Pyxis yet. I really want to, but I am a long-term Blackmagic user and owner. I've owned a bunch of Blackmagic cameras. I flew to France last year to help my really good friend Flo with some documentaries that he'd been drumming up for a long time, and we shot those on Blackmagic. While my specific needs for a camera are very use case for me, I think that a lot of them really do apply to a lot of filmmakers that are in a similar position to me, and whether you're a camera operator or not, I don't think really matters. I think the key takeaways from this video are that a lot of really high-end pro features that don't feel so dissimilar from high-end sets are available in this Pyxis, and that's what I want to talk about today. Cameras are extremely personal, and I think to better understand my personal choices, it makes sense to understand who I am as a filmmaker. I've been a freelance director of photography and cinematographer for the last 12 years now, and my full-time job currently is I'm a camera operator. I work in British Columbia as a camera operator, and the company that I work for rent cameras from a rental house. They rent packages with lenses, and we primarily shoot on RED systems. I've shot over 20 of these films in the last few years, and what I really love to be able to do is learn and grow as a camera operator, and I really love taking the skills that I learn on set onto my own personal projects as well. The current problem that I have is that there feels to me as an operator there's a really obvious difference between the camera systems that I use at work and the camera systems that I use for my own personal work as well. And I don't mean in terms of image quality, I mean mainly in terms of how they're used. At work I have this ecosystem of assistants that help me out. And while I don't require that on most of the jobs that I do outside of work, what I do feel the difference in is the form factors of these cameras. I own a Pocket 6K still currently. It's what I'm shooting this talking head on right now. And I love the image quality of this camera, but it feels like a very different camera to use from the ones that I use outside of my camera operating.
And so, let's take a look at some of the features of the Blackmagic Pyxis.
First thing for me is an SDI port. Now, this might be a novel thing for a lot of filmmakers, but my Blackmagic 6K Pocket does not have one. I haven't owned a camera with an SDI port in a really long time, since I ran my studio back in Sydney and I had a Sony system. But for me, the discrepancy of being on set and being on a personal project often is having an assistant. And it's something that I've become used to. I know that's a pretty spoiled thing to have, and not everyone's available to have that. But what it actually really means is being able to transmit an image from something like a Teradek or a wireless video receiver of some kind to a director's monitor. And if you're running a small business like I used to do, I think it's really important, and it really elevates your production to be able to send a signal to a monitor so that the director or even the client or whoever it is basically that you're trying to impress can see that image. And then a second byproduct of that for me is that my assistant gets to be able to tap into that and pull focus and not have to be standing right next to me to do so. One of my biggest gripes with the 6K system, which I think is a lot of people's gripes, is that the form factor seemed kind of clunky. It's a really nice form factor, and I'm sure that they designed it off of a DSLR, and it's something that you can hold in front of your face and take sort of a photo or a movie. But in my opinion, it felt like it needed to be rigged to work properly. The battery life for my 6K original is near unusable. I had a few different jobs. I did some wine touring in France a couple of years ago, and I brought, I think, 10 batteries with me, and half of my day was just cycling through these batteries and just being terrified that my image would drop out. It might have been something to do with it being recorded to an SSD at the time. I'm not sure if that drains more battery or not. I know that Flo from Up to Lands shoots on these cameras as well, and he's had much more success than I have with the battery. But for the life of me, I couldn't get that thing to last more than like 20 minutes. And it was just, like I said, it became almost unusable. So I had to rig a V-lock battery system to mine. And then once you're into that sort of territory, it means that it's no longer a pocket camera of any kind, and it's a big production camera. The thing that's really intriguing to me about the Pyxis is its box form factor. It feels like a form factor that is built to be rigged to a customizable sort of build, like any cinema camera is. And it doesn't feel like it needs to be rigged just to function properly.
It is worth noting that I have the first generation of this camera and it is getting on now. I'm pretty sure that they've fixed a lot of the issues that I'm speaking about here, but I don't have one of the newer ones, so I can't really comment on that. The form factor is good as a travel camera, but what I'm talking about here today is more so rigging out a cinema camera for personal work.
While this isn't everyone's necessity, the fact that it records a 6K image is really good for me, because when I'm doing my personal work, and I'll talk more about this later in other videos, I usually build an ecosystem around it which involves stock footage as well. So when I'm done with the project, I'll cut everything up, put it live on a stock footage website that I am a contributor to, and having just a couple 2K extra image from 4K is quite attractive, and it's just an extra sales point. While I don't really care about it, I think that image is the most important thing in my mind for choosing a camera. The fact that it does come with 6K is just a bonus. Personally, in my own work, I like to shoot a lot of vintage looking stuff as well. I have some film cameras, I have some old wacky lenses, I have some modern film lenses that I use on my 6K and other cameras when I'm able to adapt them. And something that's important to me is being able to get a vintage feeling image from a modern day sensor. And I know that this new 6K sensor is beautiful. It's nothing short of incredible for what you can get for the money. The fact that you get 13 stops of dynamic range, which technically is the same as what we get on these 6K pockets here, but the new Cinema 6K camera has something different. I don't know what it is. I know that Flo, every time he shoots on it, I'm always speechless on the image that it can provide for, again, such a small cost. But there is that sort of, that little thing that you can't place that is a makeup of all of these different form factors when you're making an image that this sensor really does provide, in my opinion. I have used the 6K, like I said, I haven't used the Pyxis, but knowing that it does use the same sensor, I do hear people saying that there's some variants and some things that do differ between the two sensors, but everything that I've seen from that sensor so far has been incredible. The fact that it's full frame is actually quite advantageous for me personally, because like I said before, I have a lot of vintage lenses. And what that means is that with a full frame sensor, I can get a wider field of view for a vintage lens, which typically means that I'm spending less money on lenses. Really good quality wide angle field of view vintage lenses are very expensive and they're very rare. I have a Leica set of lenses. I haven't been able to pull the trigger on a 19mm yet because literally the cost of that lens is more than the cost of the Pyxis. So having my 35mm on a full frame means that the field of view is wider and I'm able to achieve a wider field of view of my shots without having to fork out crazy amounts for vintage lenses. One of the most attractive things about this camera for me is its price point. It comes in at about $3,000 US, and on my ventures I've been shopping for everything between $25,000 and upwards of $83,000 for an ARRI body. And in my opinion, the image quality from this for a $3,000 camera versus an $83,000 camera is not 27 times different, and that is the price difference. You can buy 27 of these form factor cameras versus one of these ARRIs. And I know it's not an ARRI, but is it 27 times worse looking? I don't think that it is. And for what I'm doing for my personal work outside of my camera operating, I think it's a pretty attractive price point for me. And this means a couple of different things. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to go out and buy 27 of these Pyxis because you can. But what it does mean is I'm always a big advocate of putting production value in front of the lens and not behind it. You then are able to spend money on your production, and that means renting locations, hiring really good actors, hiring a gaffer and grips, and spending money at rental houses on frames and diffusion and lights and all those things that really actually do make the fundamental difference between a good-looking image and an amateur-looking image. Another personal thing that's close to my heart is that it's an Australian company, and it feels really nice to support Australian-owned brands in filmmaking when there's all these giants that already exist. Blackmagic has gone up against them and decided to make a quality product that is extremely affordable for the everyday filmmaker. And for me, that's something that I want to support. I really believe in the company. They make the best color grading software on the planet, and I think they're doing really good things. And for me, it's just inspiring to support a company that's Australian that's making such waves in the filmmaking industry too. Obviously, this camera is not perfect. At $3,000 US, there's some things that it could work on, and it's no secret that the rolling shutter is one of the biggest problems of this camera. I know that personally, where I'm going in my own trajectory, I'd like to be able to shoot car stuff, and this will be a shortcoming, of this camera. But again, it comes down to price. I can rent a camera that I need to do these specific things for when that job comes. If I'm going to be hanging a camera off of a car, I'll probably have a crew to do that. I'll probably have a budget that supports that, and I'll be renting a camera that can support that ecosystem as well.
It is also worth mentioning that the gyro stabilization tool in DaVinci Resolve Studio will help you get rid of most of the rolling shutter issues, although I can't speak about this from personal experience.
I think this camera for me is really attractive because it's something that I can own, it's attainable, and it shoots the image quality that I think that I am at in my career. I want something that can show the quality of image and of filmmaking that I'm at and not be a hindrance to my workflow. And I think that the Blackmagic is that camera. People talk about 13 stops of dynamic range being old news and that there should be 14 or 15 by now. And I think honestly that is an arbitrary figure. I think the proof is in the pudding when you're comparing these images side by side with cameras that have a higher dynamic range. But where I've always been impressed with Blackmagic is its highlight roll-offs, which is something that the Alexa impresses me with, and its color and saturation properties. I think that when I work with film mediums, whether it be like celluloid or 35mm stills or whatever it may be, the reason that I enjoy those mediums so much, or one of them at least, is that the image is so close to being finished by the time I've finished capturing my image. And I don't have to spend absolutely monumental amounts of time to get that to where I want it in post-production process. And I think the same can be said for Blackmagics. I'm making images that I'm really happy with then and there, and I don't have the mindset thinking that, okay, I'm gonna fix this later in post and it'll be looking as good as it can be. I think ultimately the return on investment for this camera is massive, and cameras generally are a depreciating asset. You buy a camera, you use it, the more you use it, the less value it holds, and the more money you spend paying it back, the longer the loan is as well. A camera like this, again, it gets you something that is a beautiful, breathtaking image for a fraction of the cost of what it's up against for its competitors.
In summary, this is a cinematographer's personal camera. It's incredibly affordable, it has a great cinema camera style form factor. It's modular so you can build it and rig it however you like. And ultimately, and maybe most importantly, the image is nothing short of outstanding.
Anyway, that's it for today. I think that if I keep talking, I'm just going to start repeating myself, and I've been staring at the screen for way too long, so I'm going to cap it here. Thank you for watching. I think that I'm really excited to get my hands on one. I can't wait to play around with one. Maybe I'll go and see Flo in the French Alps again and we can shoot something together hopefully soon. But otherwise, I'll try and get my hands on one any other way I can. I look forward to shooting some stuff on it. Thank you for watching this far. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. It goes a really long way in helping the algorithm find me and find you as well. So if there's something you like, tell your friends. Otherwise, if you got something out of this, let me know what you got from this in the comments. I look forward to hearing from you, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.